Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we have regrets from Calvin Dartmouth. Okay, could we look at the agenda and see if there's any additions? If none, can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
My name, motion carried. Any conflict of interest to declare? Hearing none. Yes, next we have a presentation from the Clean Nova Scotia, Sonia Smith. Good here, there's something about the home warming.
That's
warming
correct.
program.
Home warming.
Home warming
Yes,
program,
home warming.
Welcome and whenever you're ready. go
All
ahead.
right. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So I wanted to kind of give everyone a little update on the home warming program, which has been running since 2015 under the home warming name. The program is still being funded by the province of Nova Scotia for all of the non-electrically heated homes. And for the electrically heated homes, it is being funded by Nova Scotia Power. So those are still two of the same funders that have been funding the program since the beginning. And with the program, it is designed to help homeowners living in Nova Scotia that own their home. So they can't be renters, they have to be homeowners. And we do have some different income thresholds that they have to meet. So if they live alone, they're a single person living alone in their home, they would have to make no more than $22,324. If they're a family of 2 to 4, then they cannot exceed $41,481. And if they are a family of 5 or more, then their income must not exceed $59,076. Now, our income categories are based on net income, and we use the same LICO numbers that all of the other government programs use. We just use a different percentage to calculate our numbers. So net income based on Stats Canada low income cutoff numbers. And once we get someone qualifying based on owning the home and meeting that income threshold, then we book an appointment for them. And that appointment is an energy advisor coming to their home and setting up a blower door fan test to do on their home to determine where they're losing heat, where their heat is escaping. Maybe that's through the roof, maybe it's through the basement, maybe around windows and doors. So once our energy advisor goes to the home, does that test, which takes about 2 to 3 hours at most, and that really depends on the size of the home, he'll explain all of that information to the homeowner, measure all the doors and windows, measure the building envelope, and then he takes that test. So there's a big fan he sticks in the doorway, runs an air test. There's a computer program that's designed by Enercan Canada, Department of Energy, and we use that to capture all of the data that the test provides. And then we enter all of the measurements and all of the other data that's collected by the energy advisor into that program, and that comes back to us and says where the home is in need of upgrades. So that might tell us that the attic doesn't have quite enough insulation and we can upgrade that. It might tell us that the basement is completely uninsulated and it may be beneficial to put spray foam around all the windows in that basement. It may tell us that the home doesn't need any upgrades. It might tell us that the home is already energy efficient compared to other homes in that community that are of equal size and age. So there are at times that we might go into a home and say, oh, we're very sorry, but your home is really in good standing, which is not a bad thing. And we always offer a parting gift of some type just to thank them and and appreciate the fact that they let us come to their home and give that service to them. So once we do that test and determine that, we then contact the homeowner and let them know what upgrades can be done through the program at no cost to them. And with their permission, we will then contact a contractor within their community, if there is one available that is within one of our contractors. And we will try to make it convenient for them, work around their schedule, and book a time to come in and complete those upgrades. And then once the upgrades are completed, we then go back to the home again and we perform another energy test to determine what kind of a difference we've made for that home. Now, in most cases, we're seeing between 20 and 30% savings when we can do upgrades, insulate a basement, top up the attic insulation to the R50, which is now code today. Any homes that are 25, 30 years old, were, in most cases, the code back then was only R20, R25, up to maybe R30. So a lot of the older homes don't quite have enough insulation in the attics especially. So that's something that we really focus on to make sure, because a lot of people are losing their heat through the roof. And so that's a really important part of the program for us. We do get a lot of questions because a lot of homeowners are hoping that they can get new doors or maybe new windows, or maybe just even one if it's not a great window and maybe leaking. But that's not part of our program. Our program is based on energy efficiency. So, and of course, windows, replacing a window is more of a cosmetic thing. It's an opening, so you can't really make it efficient. So we do try to help the homeowners understand that it is a program designed to help them at least make their home warmer so their heat is not escaping, and in that case, most times will reduce their heating costs, whether they're using oil, whether they're burning wood, or whether they're using electricity. It will typically reduce all of that cost for them just by adding insulation and draft proofing. So, and then once the last assessment is done, all paperwork is left with the homeowner, including both assessments, which shows them their R rating, which is also a really valuable tool to have for the future in case they decide to sell. A lot of our participants are seniors. They do tend to fit more into the income categories that own homes in the province. So what we find is that typically within a few years, they might decide to downsize and maybe move to an apartment and sell their home. So it's been a really great addition for a lot of the people that have participated in the program so far. So just as another little tidbit of information, if you're finding that you're meeting folks or maybe a little bit over our threshold of income, we increase our income levels every summer. So usually every August. So I would encourage anyone that is maybe a little bit over to check with they can call our 800 number or check on our website if they use the internet, and just check to see if the income has gone up. Typically by the first week of September, they'll see the change if it's going to happen. And so far we've got an increase every year. The province has allowed us to increase the thresholds every year. Typically the one-person one goes up by about $500, just to give you an idea. The 2 to 4 person one goes up by about $900, and the 5 or more one goes up by about $1,200 to $1,500. So that just helps allow more people into the program each year that maybe didn't quite qualify the year before. And we do have just, a small buffer, so we encourage people to, if they're unsure, maybe they're not sure of what their net income is. Most of us know what our gross income is, but if we're not doing our own income tax, we may not know what our net income is. And that's the income that we go by. So they can always just give us a call. Our advisor will be happy to chat with them and help them figure out when is the best time for them to apply to the program. And just one other little tidbit, once someone has applied to the program, participated, they cannot participate again in the future. The program is only available to each homeowner one time. However, if a homeowner sells their home after home warming has been there and completed, and in a couple of years they decide to sell that home, move to a different home, no matter if it's the same size, smaller size, that home is now eligible as long as the homeowner still meets the income criteria. So it's based on the actual address on the home, not the person. So that's how we try to, because we want to make sure all homes are energy efficient in Nova Scotia. And a lot of times people, they're not necessarily buying another newer home, they're typically buying another older home, unless they're moving to, a newer subdivision somewhere. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're very
Any questions?
welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
Danny?
The inspection, the first assessment is free.
Everything is free.
Now, if you're above this, you can still get the assessment, but there's a charge, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. So for any homeowner who does not qualify for the home warming program, there is a program called the Home Energy Assessment through Efficiency Nova Scotia.
Okay.
And that program is available to anyone that owns a home, and you can call and book an appointment. It costs $99 for that assessment, no matter how you heat your home. And then the energy advisor will make recommendations and provide you with a sheet of recommendations, and the homeowner, if they are in a financial position where they can do some upgrades, there are rebates that are available from the federal government to help them save on any of the upgrades that they do.
Right.
Yeah, another really fabulous program
Yes.
to help people upgrade. Yeah.
Any other questions that you may have?
Just, you mentioned homeowner,
Yes,
that could be a person usually with a mortgage, right? It doesn't
that's
have-
correct. Yeah, so it is,
Yeah,
even though the bank may have the mortgage, they're still the homeowner.
Okay.
So as long as so what we ask for is a photocopy of their notice of assessment to prove their income, and then we ask for a photocopy of their property tax bill. And we ask for that because we know it shows the name of the homeowner on that, and then we just match that up with the notice of assessment that they live there. We can't do it in a summer home, or if the homeowner owns it but they don't live there, they live somewhere else, and someone else, it still doesn't work that way. They have to reside in the home, it has to be their full-time home,
okay.
year-round. Yeah,
Yes, go ahead,
Just one
Tony.
more question.
No,
sure.
I mean, there are programs out there that your property taxes have to be paid up to date.
That's correct.
Is that the same with this one?
No, not with this one.
Not with
No.
this one.
Does this one, it doesn't matter about your property taxes, nothing like that, because this is a funded program
Yes.
through the province and Nova Scotia Power. So we don't even look at if they own other properties. We don't look at if they have RSPs. It's just their actual income, what they're earning per year is what we look at. It's a little bit different than Housing Nova Scotia programs.
Yes, that's it.
Doesn't work quite the same, but we work very closely with housing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a resident in your community that is going through a Housing Nova Scotia program, they will refer that person to us. And then, for an example, if they're replacing a roof for that homeowner, they'll contact us and say, okay, we've got that roof done, we'll go in and add the insulation. That takes some of that money off of their budget so that they might be able to do something else for that homeowner, because we can do the insulation part for free.
Yes.
Right? So we'll work very closely with housing to try to get as much done for that homeowner as possible, because they're doing health and safety repairs, we're doing energy efficiency repairs, so we can kind of put the two together and do the most we can for the homeowner. So that's been really just so wonderful, because we've been able to do so much more and alleviate some of their budgets so they can do more also. So that's, yeah,
It's a great program.
thank you so much.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if somebody has a B&B, but they're staying there and they go to the cottage in the summer, so that would be their principal home.
Yeah, but they're using it as a place of business.
Oh, very good.
So, yeah, they're using it as a place of business, so that would be a little different. Now, if someone had like a little hair shop in their basement, or they sold Avon, that's not the
That's
same.
not-
That's not the same, but an Airbnb is an actual registered business that would be available online, et cetera, so no.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sonia, that's great. No other questions that I see?
Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you so much for
Really
your
appreciate it.
presentation.
I'm just gonna stick around for the next one, if you don't mind.
Why not? Yes. No pressure at all.
You can stay till we're done.
Okay, we move on to the next presentation. Rebecca Rose, Community Navigator, Physician Recruitment. Step up to the podium and
A little microphone present.
I saw something fall. I wasn't sure what it was.
Thank you very much for allowing me to come and present to council today. The momentum in my job since I've taken it over is astounding, and we're having so many positive returns from the investment of the stakeholders. So basically what I'd like to do is I'd like to just kind of give you a quick overall. You have the summary of the report that I sent to you. So my purpose is just to kind of pull some of those out, maybe explain them and answer whatever questions, and kind of give you a little state of the union in terms of medical recruitment right now. So basically my job has divided into recruitment retention, or recruitment community navigation, and objective measurement. In terms of recruitment, that means identifying and attending recruiting events. It means supporting the Nova Scotia Health Authority recruiters by facilitating their tours to our area, because they don't really know our area as well, whereas somebody directly from the area who knows the small villages around can really bring a good sense of the community and a sense of the spirit to the area. So that is actually a huge portion. Today I spent probably 6 hours just touring a new internal medicine physician to our area. So that's just that. That doesn't include all the emails and all the hours of prep ahead of time, getting the itinerary and all the follow-up that will happen from that. So in terms of recruiting new physicians to the area, I also do that for new medical residents that are coming to the area. I'm keeping track of the local students that are considering medical careers or who may already be in medical school and might be looking at residencies or might be in another university outside the province and might be looking at coming back. So I've basically become this umbrella where everybody that's involved or interested in becoming a physician is already partway through the process or are maybe looking at moving from a different part of the country to here. I'm that portal, which is great and huge all at the same time. So one of the other things that I'm doing is I help support the development of the credit union place. So that's the property on Vancouver Street that Costa Financial purchased to help make the area a little bit more accessible for medical students and to create a great experience and environment for the medical residents and the medical students that are here. So basically, to kind of summarize it, students do 4 years of medical school after their undergrad, and then they do 2 years of residency. And we have a residency program here in Yarmouth. And so what happens during those 4 years of medical school is they have a number of different activities which bring them to different areas within the province or within Canada. So for example, in March, I have a group of 16 students that are coming that are in first and second year medical school. So they're going to come here for a weekend. They're going to do an educational component. It's partially sponsored by Nova Scotia Health and Authority and Dalhousie. They're going to come here. They're going to do a casting workshop. And then while they're here, they're going to get to know the community, get to know the hospital, and get to interact with the residents and get an idea of, oh, okay, so this is what this area is like, and this is what this facility has to offer, and this program has to offer. So from there, they may decide, what a great experience that was. I'm going to try and do some of my clinical rotations, which are 1 to 4 weeks. And they happen between the 3rd and 4th year of medical school. So they might say, hey, you know what, I had a great time in Yarmouth. I want to do some rotations in Yarmouth. So maybe they do their obstetrics rotation with us, or another one. If they have a great experience there, then they might be looking at doing their residency here, their 2-year residency program with us. We currently have 6 seats in each year. It's a 2-year. So right now we currently have, we actually have 14, I believe, currently, because we also have some internal medicine residents that are here. And so why that is so important to recruiting for us is that right now, with the group of residents that are just about to finish, we're looking at a 50% capture rate. So 50% of the students that we have in our residency program, so we have 6 finishing this year, or actually we have 8 finishing this year. We have 4 that are staying, they've already signed on. So that's the easiest, really, like that's such an easy way to recruit. So the recruitment perspective with my job is not just filling this gap right now, it's planning for 8 years down the road. So there are a number of different pathways going on at the same time. So that's probably something I didn't really anticipate quite so much in the job description. When it gets to navigation, any physician who's coming either from another province, maybe from another area within our province or overseas, I'm helping them with housing, I'm helping them get accounts set up, I'm helping them figure out how the banking system's a little bit different here than it is overseas. I'm helping them sort out child-centric needs such as schools and school districts and snow pants, right? All of those things are important. And also explaining some local customs, right? Because that's important to kind of understand why things are a little bit different. I had to explain the lobster trap Christmas tree in Barrington as an example, right? So those are just some things they do help people feel as though they're becoming part of the community, which is what we want. We don't want physicians to come and feel like they're just providing a service. We want them to come and join our community, their entire family. So that's kind of where that navigation piece really fits in. And it also means connecting spouses to other employment opportunities. I was speaking to potential physician from Brazil over Christmas. And his wife was amazed. She has a degree in food engineering, and she has her master's in HR, and she can't work in Brazil because in Brazil you either work full-time, which is 44 hours a week, or you don't work at all. And so the idea that she could probably work part-time here, she thought that was amazing. Of course, we have lots of food-based manufacturing that would just gobble up her skills in no time, right? So it's a matter of keeping track of those cultural differences and those skill-based differences so that we can really help make them feel part of the community and incorporate them into the community. So, measuring outcomes, that's just a matter of coming here, keeping track of the budget, making sure my stakeholders know exactly what's going on, where we're going. And so most people at this point want to know, where are we with our doctor recruitment right now versus a year ago? So a year ago, the Chamber of Commerce had said, doctor recruitment is our #1 task force item, and they ended up going in April to the Calgary Anesthesiology Conference, and that's really where things launched from. That's when they decided that they needed to hire someone in my position. So I took over the position, or I started the position in the middle of September. So since the Chamber of Commerce decided on that, and pretty much since I started, we have added Dr. Gambo, who's an anesthesiologist. He joined us in July. Dr. Sell is a family medicine practitioner. He joined us in October. Dr. Ahmed is a psychiatrist. He joined us in December. Dr. Mba is a family medicine doctor. He joined us in January. And Dr. Cox is a general practice physician who is working in oncology. She joined us in January. So those are the additions pretty much since I've started. So that's great. So let's see where we really are right now. We have 2 anesthesia vacancies right now. Last year we had 4, so now we only have 2, and we have 1 offer that's pending, so that will leave 1 vacancy. We still need 6 family medicine doctors, but I have 2 that are going to be starting this summer, so that brings us down to 4. And we have 1 pending situation that will probably start, I'm going to say July, August, so that brings us down to 3. Whereas last year, we were down 6, 7, 8, maybe 9. That's huge, right?
Wow.
We have 6 internal medicine specialists, openings for internal medicine. We have 5 site visits, one of which I did today. So between now and March 31st, I have 5 internal medicine specialists who are coming and touring the area. Technically, we need 1 pediatrician, but we have an offer pending. So if that works out, we'll have our pediatrician. We have 2 psychiatrist openings, but we have 2 pending offers, and they are going to be starting theoretically in June, the end of June. And so that leaves us with 1 radiologist, and that's it. So
What does pending, just about in for a minute? Pending, does that mean it's sure or it's,
pending means that the contract offer has been, the contract letter has been put forward, that it has either been signed or is about to be signed, but we always term it, my understanding is Nova Scotia Health Authority always determines it as pending until the first day of employment,
oh, I get you.
right? So even though everything's expected and I might be working on housing or they might be working on their licensing number, until that position starts work, it's still pending.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So that's where we are, and that's where we were, and that's what I do. Questions?
Good. Questions?
Yeah.
Danny?
When you said, okay, that last year there were 9, we needed 9 doctors.
Family medicine, I'm gonna say, I never actually looked at the number, but if we need 6 now, and I've already filled 3.
Yes,
so
but
9.
are you saying that if we were to fill those 3, that everybody in this area would have a family doctor? Is that what that means, I guess?
That's what that means. Those are the number of positions that have been allotted to us to satisfy our population.
Okay.
Now, and I don't know this for sure, because I'm still gonna, I'm still gonna play the newbie card a little bit. If we had all of those positions filled, and we still had population from our communities on that list that still identify as needing a physician, then at that point, somebody has to go back someplace and say, okay, the numbers that we had estimated are wrong. And then that process would probably begin to reassign another position. I'm gonna guess that that's what happens. I really hope that I'm around to see that problem.
You're darn right.
I wanna see that problem.
Yes, no, Glenn?
Thank you. I think the work you're doing is great.
Thanks.
I was involved, I guess, as a paramedic in paramedicine for 33 years, and I could see doctors coming and going, and no doctors, and picking up patients after patients, and one of the questions you asked, family doctor, we have none, so definitely going in the right direction by all means. It's one of my priorities when I ran as counselor was for hopefully a better healthcare system in the area. So you're helping me out on that. Thank you very much.
I'm just hustling. It's
And,
working.
Well, keep hustling.
Yeah.
Those numbers that were allotted now, are they numbers that's allotted through the Nova Scotia Health?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. Those are numbers which are provided to me from Nova Scotia Health Authority.
Okay.
So that's really all I have to work with.
That's,
If that's in their budget, then they're the ones that are paying the bills, right?
I know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
Richard?
Yes, as a community navigator, is Barrington part of your responsibility?
Yeah,
So you didn't mention Dr. Robin Pierce, was she started?
she started before me,
Okay.
like long enough before me. She started before, or just at the time, I think when the Chamber of Commerce was really starting to get going.
Okay.
So I had nothing to do with her recruitment, with her site visits. I had nothing to do with, or her community navigation
Okay,
necessarily.
I knew the timing was close. that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
And in today's budget, they announced the $150 fee.
Yeah.
Is that gonna negatively affect recruitment where,
I don't think so. I'm not up on government policy per se, but I would say that the increased funds for the contract, which now mean that the emergency department doctors, family physicians, and anesthesiologists in Nova Scotia will be paid higher than any other province in Atlantic Canada. That's gonna make a huge difference. Because you don't necessarily have to be at the top of the heap price-wise for everywhere, but you don't wanna be at the bottom. You wanna have a fighting chance, right?
I was referring to $150 that the
Took out of the
doctors
budget,
took on new
I
patients.
get
They've
you.
eliminated that program
Oh,
in the budget today.
in the budget
Oh, I
today, but
get you.
they've increased fees.
Oh, okay, I get you.
Yeah, I think there's enough, I think it'll work its way out.
Okay.
It'll be fine. I would love to say that that's my only inhibiting factor.
Lucia? Yes.
Honestly, I'm not gonna say anything no one hasn't said. I followed your position closely actually once the Chamber of Commerce announced it, and I thought what a great idea, and it's nice. I'm not sure if you were invited or if you asked to come or how that all played down with staff, but I really appreciated the update actually, because
Oh, that's great.
often as municipal representatives, even though it's not really our jurisdictions, we get asked the questions, what's the province doing for, this and for that, and to have a small update on such an important topic was really well, and continue the good work, it's awesome.
Well, good, thank you. I feel it's important for the stakeholders to have an idea of what's going on. It's really important to have a lot of positive information out there, because the best way to stop the negative chatter is to get the positive out there, right? So I'll be back in another 4 or 5 months and update you again.
That's great.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
I
go
just have a
ahead.
question, I'll pass to Alain.
Yeah.
Once, if they all get filled the position,
Mm-hmm.
you're still gonna keep your job, right? You're not gonna be gone. We're gonna keep you here. We don't wanna lose you.
We'll see, and then.
Always
and-
keep one in the back, that's the
Keep one in the
priority.
back, yeah. And so sometimes what happens with recruitment and retention is it's a matter of keeping the physicians that you have, keeping them engaged in the community, keeping that relationship between the physicians so that they can support each other, because that's very important when it comes to rural medicine, right? So although I wasn't technically involved with Dr. Pierce's recruitment and settlement, I'm very much, she and I are in contact fairly regularly because retention is still my job, right? And so the needs of our physicians within our community and the needs for our physicians within their own practice is going to change as time goes on. So there are probably lots of other ways that I will be able to help.
Alain?
Thank you, it was really good. Just a question on where the family practitioners are, where they're coming into the community, where are they looking to land? So are some at the hospital, are some in clinics, are some like, is that really been discussed? And
Yeah, it's discussed all the time, every day, multiple times a day. So the family medicine docs that we have signed, let me see, go through my head here. Many of them have gone to the hospital. Many of them have the opportunity to spend, not many of them, some of them have the opportunity to do a week as a hospitalist. So that means that they work on call at the hospital, and then they run their practice for 3 weeks, either out of Ocean View clinic. Some of the residents may choose to stay where they are currently working as a resident. So for example, Dr. Green, Dr. Moses, and Dr. Gillis are all at the Courthouse Medical Center. They have a couple of residents who work there, so so they may choose to stay there, and there are certainly spots for them to stay there as physicians. And then I think there would still be a little bit of space for them to take on, for those physicians to work as preceptors and take on another resident. See, that's another little, not a hiccup, but it's another complicating factor. We can't have a person in our residency program if they don't have another physician that is working as the preceptor. And so it's important that I make sure that I take care of the preceptors, right? Because it's extra work for them. So that's part of retention, but it's also part of recruitment. So I'm not quite sure where I draw that line. And so with respect to that, I'm working with Dr. Kathleen Horry at the Dalhousie Medical School, and we're working at some ways to figure out how happy the preceptors are, where they need more skill development, maybe where they need more support, so that those who feel that perhaps the burden of being a preceptor is, maybe we can moderate that a little bit. Because if I don't have a preceptor, then I can't fill that seat, right? So that's a 3-year plan. Like, it's like dominoes, really, but it's good. It's good.
Alain, did you have any?
no, that's it, thank you.
Yes, Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. Does the municipality still have funds available for if a student from the municipality wants to go into a medical field? Was there monies there at one point in time that or is the money still there that the municipality would help pay for some of the funding, or?
The municipal funding that was in place was for medical students prior to them graduating fully. They would receive, I guess, a forgivable loan, I guess, which was a 4-year loan of up to $25,000 a year. Now that was shared between the municipality, the town, and the municipality of Argyle, town of Yarmouth, municipality of Yarmouth, and Argyle. That program has all but been replaced by provincial recruitment funds. So the province has a program now that most physicians take advantage of, which has not necessarily eliminated the need for it, but we have not paid an amount in quite a few years. I'm going to say maybe 4. The last payments were probably that long ago. So the province has picked up where the recruitment piece by funding medical tuition and other ways that they have their programs set up. Actually, Rebecca would know more about those programs than I would, but they have all but replaced what we do. We do other things, clearly, like recruit, retention and recruitment individuals, And we also fund and subsidize any loss of the 2 medical clinics that we have, both in Pubnico and in Harbour South and Yarmouth.
Thank
It's
you.
called a tuition relief fund,
Mhm.
is technically what it's called. Yeah.
I have a question, another question. How important are places like the YMCA, Mariner Center, when you're talking to the physicians or residency people,
Well,
their wives?
for the residents, it's really important because they're still really young and they really want to get involved. And if they're here with their spouses, it's just like living anywhere. You want to have services that you can access. Most people that come here, they already have interests in sports that they like to do and different activities and ways to stay in shape, and they like to go to the theater and they like to sing in the choir, and all of these things are the same as for any other group of people, right? And actually it's interesting because I had this conversation with the physician that I was touring today. And one of the things that I had pointed out was because we are not in such a short distance to Halifax that we can just pop up to Halifax every time we need something. It means that all the areas that are around us, like we have created what we want here. We've created our artistic community and our musical community and our sports community and we have just created and maintained so much of our own activities and involvements and cultural events. We've done so much of that here because we can't just jump up. We don't rely on anybody else. And so my ability to communicate that is, I think, very important for them to see, you know what, this is a community that digs being a community and really enjoys getting out there and doing stuff. So it's very important, very important.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? If not, Rebecca, thank you so much for
Thank you.
doing this. It's I'm glad, as Councillor Digdon and others said, it's so important for you to come and keep us informed.
Oh, well, it's a great job.
Great.
It's a great job. Thank you.
Thank you very much now. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to the adoptions of the minutes, regular council meeting minutes of February the 11th.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. By my name, motion carried. We have business arising from the minutes, unsightly vessel in Wedgeport. Lucia, would you have anything on that?
Yeah, I do. So, to recap, I forget exactly when it was, last September, October, I brought this to council. I'll just jot down a quick recap. So there's a vessel that was once purchased, never exactly used by individual in Wedgeport. It's just north of the Tuna Wharf, if you're familiar with the area. Basically, it was pulled up there to haul it up out of the ocean. Left debatably on the Doucette's property, who would like to see the vessel moved, possibly on the Jacquard's property. Nobody really knows, unless probably the property would be surveyed, and might even possibly be below the high water mark, which would then put it in jurisdiction of the Department of Natural Resources. Of course, they came and looked at it and said, no, it's not in our jurisdiction, it's on private property. So if it was considered an unregistered and derelict vessel, by DFO standards, I believe there's a program you can apply to have it removed at the cost of the landowner. So you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
Nobody knows where this boat really falls. The owner of the boat stated, was politely asked by residents, so I should backtrack here. This vessel is hauled up in an area where commonly years ago vessels would have been hauled up, where rules weren't as strict and the world was a different place, and you pulled up your boat near the wharf and that was that. You didn't ask anyone to put it there, you put it there. So time has wore on, it's become less and less common to have that practice. The Tuna Wharf itself isn't used commercially a whole lot anymore, some minor summer things. But anyway, nonetheless, the property behind it was developed. A few homes were purchased and lawns were made right to the ocean, as well as they're making an attempt to build a private wharf there on their property. So basically someone from away moved in and spent a lot of money to have a nice home right to the water there. So this vessel is directly in line of sight. So an amicable solution was sought after by the neighbors and the owner, and basically they said, you know, the owner said, I can't move it, I can't afford to move it at the moment, but if it can get moved by someone else, and it's in your way, and it's bugging you, and there's a more appropriate place, so be it, go for it, type thing. So they do pull up vessels now behind, which would be my family, my old family's business, the LeBlanc Brothers Boat Shop, now it's Wedgeport Boats. They do park vessels there. It's around $1,000 from what I'm told to pull a vessel up there and store it there. The vessel owner, coincidentally, has a relationship, a friendly relationship with some of the owners of the boat shop, so they said they'd store it there. So the problem is getting it from point A to point B is about an hour's work. It's not, logistically, it's not complicated like some of the matters we've seen in Eel Lake or anything like that. But basically, there's a boat that nobody wants to admit it's their problem, and quite frankly, I don't blame the neighbors at all. They you know, they have a beautiful sunset there over the bay. They want to make a dock. They made a lawn right to the water, and there's this big old deteriorating vessel there. So I believe at the last meeting, I checked over the minutes. Sorry, I do know no motion was made. We talked about $1,000. There was, for lack of a better term, somewhat of a consensus to spend the money to move it. However, what we did, we instructed staff to go check it out and look at all the options first. And some of this information I'm telling you is from staff checking this out. Basically, to move it within our current budget, I believe it would have to fall under the dangerous and unsightly policy. And quite frankly, that's a road I don't know if we should really even try to take. There's nothing leaking from the vessel or anything like that. This is just from my, you know, my eyeing up of the boat. But it's something I think that's going to be kept asked, and no one wants to take responsibility for it. And I would state that $1,000, $1,500 for sure, but probably around $1,000 would solve the problem. Whether or not council wants to spend the money to forget about it, which is not really a common practice that we would normally do. However, I've also experienced things like this drag on and on and on and on and keep coming back to this table. So those are the facts I know. Maybe Alain wants to add a few points. Maybe not. I think I hit him.
Mr. Chair, only that we contacted the boat owner, and he was unwilling to move the boat this fall. That was when we spoke to the gentleman, because he was into fishing at the time, and indicated that he would consider moving it in the spring, but there was no firm commitment. And that could change, because that was a conversation that was had in the fall. We don't know what we can't confirm what property it's on. We can, and we have not sent a dangerous and unsightly administrator to view the vessel, because really, even under that policy, even if we considered it dangerous and unsightly and required it to be removed, it again would be removed at the cost of the landowner, because that's where the unsightliness is located. So our policies don't address the problem. It's not a municipal problem, it's a community problem, which is why we don't have a policy for it. So we don't have an administrative solution for you. So there's a political solution that would have to be debated and decided at this table, because we don't have an administrative solution for you.
Any comments from anybody on this?
I went and looked at the situation, and yeah, if it was in my front yard, I'd be pretty upset too. It's one of these that just fall between the cracks, but I would be willing to support a one-off in a situation like this if somebody wanted to make the motion to have it removed up to a certain amount of what'd you make it, 1,500?
1,500 would cover it, so we don't need to come back to the table, but it's looking more, from what I gathered, like 200 and 800. 200 to haul it down and 800 to haul it up.
Yeah, I know who's involved in this. That boat's not going nowhere this spring or the next spring, or so Yeah, I mean, once in a while we get caught into these one-offs and we have to deal with them.
I'll make that motion that we remove that,
Would you put a limit on your motion?
$1,500
Max.
max. To get it out of there, get it out of people's way, and so it's not so unsightly.
I'll second that.
Councillor Digdon?
The only thing I'd like to say again, and talking about that same both there, I'd like to refrain from voting on this motion here this evening because I have family that is part of,
Yeah, respect that. That's-
with that
thank-
family.
Thank you for
with that-
declaring.
With that owner, the boat owner, so,
It's good that you do that.
thank you.
I have a comment, that doesn't fit our CAO, that would not fit in the $500 anywhere if you see I had some.
No.
No, that's, I didn't think, but I just wanted to be sure. And I
I,
knew if you had 500 there.
I do, but.
If it doesn't fit, that's no good.
no, I don't think it does.
Very
I think the, so the issue would be, so first of all, that property is either going to be moved by us or moved by the owner. Right, so,
Yeah,
I guess what I'm interpreting from the motion is that you're providing a budget to move the boat in the best way possible, and that we have flexibility as to how we do that appropriately? Is that what I'm understanding?
That's what I would suggest, and if I may add,
Yes.
I've had conversations with people who will pull it down that are relevant that, as of today. As far as storing it, this fixes the problem and moves it, but as far as storing it, I wanted to be sure there's no issue in the future there. And I tried to phone the boat shop owners, as that question popped up in my head tonight. It was an unforeseen question that I had as I was driving here, and I thought, moving it's one thing, is just what happens after. And from what I understood from the conversation 6-7 months ago, it would include the storage for X amount of time. And by X, I mean a long amount of time. I just would say, I would suggest that the motion be capped there, but if something happens that the opinions change from the 6-7 month ago conversation, well, then we can revisit it then, but I would guess it hasn't.
Yes, sir, Warden Muse?
Question, are we going, we wouldn't move that boat without, will we get permission from the owner in order to do it? Because if we go there and we move it, as far as liability and whatever, and he comes back and says, somebody moved my boat, and I had no idea, would we be getting a consensus or consent from him to say,
Yeah.
I agree, if you want to move it, and
I
then
can-
he signs something?
I can take that if you want.
Yes, sir, Richard, go ahead.
He's already been consulted and already agreed. If you want, I mean, we would obviously have to, staff would obviously have to contact him again
Yes.
to say we're gonna do it, but he's already said, if you guys wanna do it on your own
Go
dollar,
ahead.
go right ahead.
That's word of mouth.
Yeah, that's word of mouth, that's it.
Yeah. I think it may not be a bad idea to have something that's concrete so that he doesn't come back and say, I never said that.
Have you seen, fair enough, but
You know what I
if you've
mean?
seen the vessel, I don't
I've seen
think,
it.
I don't think it's
Not to-
anything anyone's going to court for.
No,
Let me have a look.
I see, yeah.
Oh,
One
no.
more question.
Yes, go, sorry, Richard.
So this vessel's gonna be moved by truck and trailer, right?
Actually, where it has to go, it's much easier at high tide, shove it in the water,
Shove it in.
haul it a few hundred feet,
That's what I
haul it back
thought.
up.
I'll back up.
Yeah, okay.
That's what
Well,
I
I was thinking truck and trailer, well, this person has his own property somewhere, you could drop it on his own land.
Mm.
But I mean, if it's gonna go by water.
of his house.
And just so you know, the individuals involved who would be moving this,
Yes,
this is their line of work and they have insurances and
Okay.
stuff like
things
that.
like that, right?
Okay, question on the motion.
Question's been asked, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Reminded, motion carried. Okay, we'll move to number 6, and structural reform consolidation. I would like to ask the CAO if it would be okay if he made a high level on his, on this important document, or am I asking too much? With the public have not having heard this is what I was thinking.
Oh. Yeah,
Maybe at a high level, and then I'll entertain discussion after this.
Okay, so we'll keep it high level. So there's, so first of all, we have every intention of putting the link of this document online, both the Facebook Live and also social media
Very good.
later on, and there'll likely be press releases that will explain, well, the press release is likely gonna support a decision, not necessarily a lot of the details of the report. So so basically the report that has been prepared on behalf, or for your benefit, is simply to take an objective snapshot of what our current financial and structural status is. Meaning, okay, if we're gonna have a conversation about consolidation, where are we now and where are we headed? You know, why now? Why is this discussion, why should we have this discussion now, or is this an appropriate time to have it? So, so where Argyle is now, there's quite a few pages that are supporting where we are now. In short, we are financially viable today. We're heavily invested in regional partnerships, and we have a lot of funding agreements with our partners, both the town and municipality. So that's one of the reasons why you might consider a deeper relationship with your neighbors, because the truth is you already have a lot of relationships with your neighbors, both financially and in the shared services respect. Our ability to generate operational cash flow with our tax rates is lower than our neighboring units. What that means is, well, I'll summarize it in a different way. You have less infrastructure to pay for than your neighbors do, but you also don't make a lot of surplus every year in comparison. So you are financially viable as an organization, you have surpluses every year. You know, the question is, are you saving enough for what's coming, right? So what's coming is you have infrastructure that is to be renewed within your own organization. You also have infrastructure that you support regionally that is either coming to an end or that you will be asked to consider investing in, and some of which are very important to your residents, even if they're not physically located in your community. So where are we heading? Argyle is potentially heading into a reduced ability to pay the bills without other avenues for growth. Why does the report say that? The report says that because our population is declining and our population is aging. Now, a consolidation doesn't change that. We don't suddenly start getting younger on a consolidation. That would be really good. That's probably in the water, but that's not really going to happen. You look at the region of Queens, you look at other regions. This statistic has nothing to do with municipal government. It has to do with people, the baby boomers hitting an age and retiring, and also less people coming into the economy to replace them. And we are in rural Yarmouth County, and of course, in any rural district of Canada, you're seeing a rural decline of population. You're seeing an urbanization of our communities. So what that means is we may have less people, which means we'll have potentially less people paying taxes. We may have downward pressure on our market assessment, because we know what happens to the market prices of homes when you have a lot of people, and when you don't have enough people, you know the opposite occurs. So of course, all of those things are how we generate our taxes. So we either have to find other ways to do that, which there are other ways, such as renewable energy. We're already doing that, in fact. It's not like we didn't see some of this coming. But we are headed to a reduced prosperity, I guess. And that's not uncommon. We're not alone, okay? Every rural municipality is facing this reality, whether you're a town, a small town, or rural. There are certain sectors of Nova Scotia that are growing, as you know, HRM and the triangle, the 1 hour triangle within HRM is growing. They have different concerns, they have different problems, they have different challenges. So the other place that we are, where we are and where we're headed is a lot of these agreements that we have with our municipal partners, there's a lot of them. And so what happens is every time you share with your partners, traditionally, what we have done is created an organization to share the burden, to share the governance structure, to share the administration. So, for instance, we create a solid waste Yarmouth County Waste Management Authority, It owns transfer stations and landfills, and we collectively pay for that based on the tonnage that we bring to the landfill. So how we play nice and how we share the funding is a non-issue because it's based on the volume of garbage that your residents are bringing to the landfill. So that's really without argument. However, what it does is it creates a whole other board of directors, which consists of council. It creates all sorts of policies that you have to administer. With every organization, there are challenges, and so what happens is the CAOs are often asked to parachute in on certain issues to save the day or to ruin the day, depending on what you're asking the CAO to do. And you multiply that by a factor of 7 or 8 or 9, because that's how many organizations we're dealing with, right? So there's quite a few of them. So it's become quite unruly to administer effectively, and so that's why that's why I think we would all consider the thought of consolidation. Well, what we need before anything is structural reform. We do need to, we need to change the way we are currently structured, or change the way that we do business, because the efficiency and effectiveness of all these partnerships has gone the other way. So there's a point where you get into these partnerships and it's really effective, and then when you get to too many of them, it becomes difficult to administer, because you have 3 municipalities making decisions or potentially wanting different things of another organization. So we do need to do business differently, and the report that I have done does not make a recommendation as to whether consolidation is the way to go or isn't the way to go. The report talks about how we are invested, both locally and regionally. It talks about it compares financially the 3 municipalities, the town, the municipality of Yarmouth, and the municipality of Argyle. It talks about the challenges of all of the agreements that we have together, and how we need to at least do that differently if you can't get there on consolidation. If consolidation isn't the answer, then you need to change something, is what this report is saying. It talks about other issues that might be coming our way, such as climate change, infrastructure replacement, increased cost of operations, reduced volunteers for fire services, and increased training needs. We could actually have further regional opportunities. We could do more things together, but the way we're doing it is already very complex. But there are opportunities that we're potentially missing because we're structured the way that we are. And again, the answer isn't necessarily consolidation, but it's certainly structural reform. And there are some positives that are coming, which is, there's a lot of strengths and opportunities that occur in the region. I don't want to be, all doom and gloom. Extended producer responsibility policy could come into play, which would allow for big companies to pay for recycling instead of municipalities. So there are some good news items as well that could come to you in the future. So why would you consider consolidation? It would align political will. If you're arguing, at least you're arguing in the same room. And so there are benefits of that. And reduction of number of councillors, this was probably a little controversial, but, and no offense was intended, but 23 municipal elected officials for 24,000 residents is a high number compared to other areas. And it's not an intentional number. We didn't grow, plant, and reproduce councillors. It's just the way that we are set up currently, and in particular Argyle, where we have regional disparity in the way that we are geographically, it requires us to have a bit more numbers of representation. I should say it doesn't necessarily require it. Our residents have asked for it, I should say. So
Well
it's not without support, I guess, from our residents that we are governed the way that we are. It would reduce cross-border arguments because the borders wouldn't mean as much. And certainly there are strength in numbers. Consolidation of our region would make us the 3rd largest regional government in Nova Scotia. Obviously, there are some municipalities that would still be bigger, like Kings. Kings would be bigger, but we'd be number 3. So 3rd largest regional government. So we would pass the region of Queens in terms of size if we worked together. Increasing the bench strength of our team, so when we deliver services, we have to consider how we deliver services inside our team. So if you had a bigger team, you have a deeper bench, right? So you have different skill sets and you can align them differently, arguably better. Obviously that, it depends on how you do that, but you would reduce CAOs. There's lots of us, you know, two of us really just have to go. I mean, I look in the mirror every day and, flip a coin, it could be me. So, it's a lot of administration for the region, no question. I mean, again, it's a choice that we've made right now, but I didn't want to just pick on elected officials, the CAOs, there's too many of us too. So, potentially, arguably. So, and so when you're consolidated, as Argyle, you really do get to influence regional decision-making, right? There's a lot of, and I'm gonna get into fears and concerns as well, but there are fears around, well, if we consolidate, then we lose our voice.
Yes.
But there's, the opposite is also true. If we consolidate, our voice is now regional. So there are, depending on how you view that, it can be seen as a difficult thing or a potential opportunity. And our residents are more transient than they were 30, 40 years ago. Many of our residents have owned property in both Yarmouth municipality and Argyle for seasonal cottages, etc. And so our residents aren't as isolated in their own communities as they once were, perhaps. And we have common issues, so we can tackle our issues commonly. We do have concerns and fears that have been raised, and some of them are legitimate. So the fears include increase of taxes, which absolutely is a legitimate fear, because taxes are threatened to increase in this environment, whether we're consolidated or not. I think the fear that the taxes will increase to the highest residential tax rate, that fear is unfounded, because that's never actually happened in consolidation. What typically happens is that you look at the services and the cost of service delivery, and there are multiple tax rates in the regions depending on how much service they receive. So because we would receive the least amount of services, we're not going, unless people want more services. Obviously, if you want more services, you pay for them. But the concept is the same as in West Pubnico. If you're not on the West Pubnico wastewater system, you don't pay the wastewater fee. So the concept is the same. So you would just do it at a broader level. But, our taxes are, without a population increase, without an increase in market assessment, our taxes will increase whether we consolidate or not, unless we find alternate ways to spend the money, or to raise money, or ways to reduce spending. So, and that's a fairly kind of obvious comment. There's concern that the town wants consolidation, and this is, and so because the town has the most infrastructure, it would advantage the town. The town is actually financially is not financially weak. They are in a fairly good position financially. They fund their amortization every year, which means the rate of tax that people pay is not only paying for current year obligations, but future obligations for replacement. So they are set up in a way where they have set themselves up for a level of success, and hopefully they grow their assessment base as well, because we obviously, everybody benefits from growth in our local economy. I think the biggest concern was the sense of identity of Argyle, like what is Argyle, and in particular there were concerns about the minority language being lost or left unprotected. We have currently 8 of 9 elected officials comfortable communicating in both languages. It would be extraordinarily unlikely that would be the percentage of elected officials on a regional level that would be capable of doing that. And that's not to be offensive. I just think that, if that's what our population wants, and they clearly do because they've elected you, then that would be a considerable adjustment for them. And so, you told me to do high level, didn't you?
High level.
Yeah.
You're doing very good.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
It's
you're
pretty,
very good.
I feel like I've read every word of this report. It's high level, all right. Anyway, so there's.
Reader's Digest version.
And of course, finally, you know, you really need to consider what happens with Argyle if the two partners decide that they want to merge.
Right.
So there is the probability that the town and municipality will decide to merge, and that is entirely their decision to make. But if that happens, you will have an opportunity to reform your structure, because you'll have no choice. Because now your agreements won't be with 2 units anymore, they'll be with 1. So, and then of course it allows you to reset. So are you okay, Junior? Are you all right? Okay. I recall you complaining about the old chairs. Anyway, and so it ends with basically a lot of statistics, and you know, we've been asked to consider consolidation fairly quickly. Just because of timing of elections, there's a municipal election in the fall, and there's no understanding of what the province is gonna do for elections. It could be next year or whatever. But the provincial representatives they're not pushing us, but they gently asked us to decide whether we're ready now to even consider it. Because if we're not, then we're not gonna get into the legislative process. So consolidation is a legislative process that you require legislation, et cetera. So anyway, I realize this is a fairly long, high-level description. It does not make any recommendations as to where to head. Hopefully it gave you as council enough information to think about, okay, if we're not ready for consolidation right now, what are we ready for, and what should we do? And that's really the purpose of it, was not to encourage or discourage that decision. That decision is entirely yours to make, and I recognize that the staff report is not influenced in any way by what you hear from your residents, which is another level of information that you need to consider. So I will stop my high level.
Thank you, Alain, that high level is good.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
glad that you did speak on that, because there's an audience out there that had to hear this before the councillor speak. You know, that report is well written, and I thank you for doing that. Certainly has, for myself, it's a piece of paper that I will keep while I'm here until the election anyhow, because it's something we can always go back to. That's how I feel about it. I guess now I'll pass it on to my fellow councillors. Anybody would like to say a few words, or like to mention a few things on this discussion, I guess. Yes, Richard.
Just a little background. Now that we've had a few weeks to hear from the public, the constituents, there's a lot of confusion out there. We were asked to go listen to a presentation, which we agreed as a council to do, to go listen. We come back, we started hearing from our constituents, we started talking amongst ourselves, and I can clearly say that there is no appetite in the general public of Argyle that's in favor of consolidation or amalgamation, however you want to word it at this particular time. So we done our part. We just said we listen. Now we're just going to move on as if nothing ever happened, until a future date when there's a different council and other challenges come up, and we'll have to deal with it at that time. But that's the way I feel based on the information I'm hearing from my constituents. So that's my 2 cents worth at this present time.
Thank you, Richard.
Mr. Deputy Warden.
Thank you, sir. Yes, that's Danny, go ahead.
The report is a great report, there's no doubt. When you read that, it makes sense. It makes sense there's a lot of good points in that report regarding amalgamation, like what it would do and what it. However, like Councillor Johnson said, the public is not ready. The public is not ready for maybe many reasons. They're not ready because change is always a fear. There's always a fear of change. There's a fear of change for us. And until I'm satisfied that I understand that this would be the best thing for the public. I am not ready to make a decision in going that way until I can have the time to go to the public and explain to them so that they can understand. They might change their mind if we could inform them and convince them that this is the best way to go. But we're not there. We're not there. And I'm not prepared to make that a decision that's gonna be forever. You're not gonna make this decision, and once you hear from the public, you're not gonna back down. The decision is made, and we're gonna have to live with whatever we decide. And if I'm gonna do that, I want to be certain that the decision I'm making is the right decision. And at this point, I'm not that certain. I know there's a lot of good points, but there's also some points that tell me that, well, maybe it's not as good as what it's all set out to be. Like, I mean, we are having problems with the regional. I mean, the governance and whatever. But I'm not convinced that amalgamation is the only way to deal with that. I think there's other ways. And that's what I want to explore before I make a decision on amalgamation. So, that's all I have.
Thank you, Martin. Yes, that's great. Anybody else would like to? Yes, Councillor Digdon?
Thank you. I agree wholeheartedly with what both Councillor and Warden have said. I honestly don't know how to inform the people that ask me about this, what way we should go, because I don't know enough about it. We may have 5 hours altogether on this consultation talks, and I honestly can't look at them and say, yes, this is the road we should go down. And I look up at that established in 1880, and that the municipality of Argyle, we're changing, or can be changing, 140 years of work that other councillors and fellow councillors have put into this. And yes, there is a uniqueness, I believe, in the municipality of Argyle. It's one that the people have worked for, and as far as they're concerned, they own. And I'm not about to take that away from them. So at this point in time, I cannot back it up. And right from the start, and I won't go behind anyone's back to say this, the way the first meeting, the first 10 minutes of the meeting, I had a bad taste when 2 representatives of the province came in and said, it's a good thing, it's the right time and that, but keep it quiet. Don't take it out of the room. And I swore when I ran for councillor that I would be transparent. And when it comes a time that I cannot be transparent with the people or for the people, I will no longer be sitting in this seat. So at this point in time, I cannot vote for amalgamation or consolidation.
Thank you, Councillor Digdon.
Thank you.
Councillor Bork?
Just gonna repeat what everybody else is saying. I'm not for consolidation. I'm not convinced it's for our people, just like the rest said. So, and I think that we have to work on our agreements, reconstructing all these agreements, sorting everything out. We have to sit down and list everything what we have shared with the other units, and I think that's the way we should be going now.
Thank you, Councillor Bork. Yes, Councillor Albright?
My opinion's very similar to Councillor Bork's. When we were invited to go, we went, we listened, and I think all of us who were there walked out of there feeling like we didn't pull a whole lot from that meeting that we felt could really make us feel supported in a decision to move towards consolidation. It wasn't about going to a meeting to consolidate, it was about listening to that. And we agreed to do that, we went, but I wasn't convinced that we had really made any headway when I left there. And then we have the other side of our residents. I think most of us, we've discussed several times, and we've had very few people say to us, yeah, go for it. It's really been the opposite from what I've heard. But as Councillor Bork said, the one piece that I feel I really pulled from all of these talks is that we really need to think about how we're doing things. And we really need to sit down and look at all of our agreements and all the things we're involved in, and are they all the best for us right now? Some of them started way before we were sitting here, except for Richard, because he's been here forever. You know, some of those agreements have been going on a long, long time, and are they still the right agreements for Argyle? Is it still the direction that we want to go in? So that's kind of what I've pulled out as I guess my biggest learning piece in all of this. I don't feel that we're ready for consolidation. I don't feel that the information that we got pushed me one little bit more towards that. And then we have my residents telling me that they don't want it. But we really do need to work on our structural reform. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Albright. Councillor Blount?
I guess I've looked at it slightly different than the opinions here tonight. I'll start off with, I think this document that our CEO just summed up that we read deserves a little more weight than it's currently holding in our conversation right now. There's issues. I know you've all somewhat acknowledged them. However, I think they're heavy issues. I think there's fixing that needs to be done. I think in some worlds, consolidation may do that if done correctly. And I think for future reference for this council, if I'm not here, and for our residents, that these issues aren't going away if we just sweep them under the rug. But that being said, I'll get back to them. There's something a few councillors touched on when, I believe it was when we were debating the nutraceutical facility that was being projected to be placed in Tuscot, was that we swore to represent what our constituents want from us. And I thought that was well placed because, I mean, truly, they're the ones that elect you. You're here to represent them. However, I've picked that argument apart many times since, because someone once, I had the conversation once with someone that I held their opinion quite high, was that the voice of a few can be loud, and you always have to take that into consideration. Like, for example, that nutraceutical facility almost got shut down because of 25 people in a room, which we addressed the concerns on that evening, and I felt like I had answers on concerns for that particular topic. But this topic here, there's residents that approach me on this, and they have concerns, and I couldn't address them. I felt I had personally the same concerns as the residents did. I didn't have any of the answers, and I'll have to agree with Councillor Dignan that this feels very hurried in a sense. So just like the rest of you, I don't think consolidation is the option. Even when I did try to explain some of the hurdles we're trying to cross right now and how inefficient staff feels on some topics because of, you know, the merry-go-round they have to go around just to negotiate contracts with other districts in things that we work together. Even when I mentioned those and the hurdles, to people I felt like that understood, they said it wasn't worth it. You know, their opinion from many people was that, yes, we do understand, you know, consolidation may alleviate and streamline some things, but it wasn't worth it. It wasn't a tax they were willing to pay, for lack of better terms. So, just like yourselves, I agree. It's not time to consolidate. However, a big picture has been painted, and it's not going away. So, I know I'm agreeing with you, but if we're not ready for consolidation, we better be ready to address some of the concerns, because they're not as minuscule as we may have thought prior to opening up this can of worms. Thanks.
Anybody else? Just a few words. It'd be strange for me not to say something on this. Like everybody else, I've certainly been torn apart by some of the questions the residents have had, and I did ask the people in my district if they agreed that I would go along with the other councillors to listen to the consolidation talks. But I tell you, like all the councillors said here, there's nothing there that persuaded me at all to change my mind or to see anything that was really beneficial to the residents. The Councillor Digdon, maybe Councillor Donaldson said it too, it seemed to go so fast and no public consultation. That was my big thing. Nobody, it was all like us together, and we never even had a chance to have maybe little district meetings with our residents to let them know what was going on. So they were hearing, oh yeah, we're gonna consolidate, or what's going on, and we don't hear nothing. That's not the way I'm used to doing things, and all of us, it's not the way we do our work. We let our residents know what's going on. That's been our practice, and it'll keep on going. I'm sure since 1880, like Councillor Digdon said, you consult with the people that elected you. This is why we're here. And for that reason, again, I cannot support consolidation. That's it from my end.
There was no Facebook in 1880.
There was no Facebook in 1880.
You remember that?
You've been here long enough, Richard, you probably know that.
The worst of it is, I'm not gonna be alive when he gets old, so.
It's not good. I think a motion would be in order. I think our partners would like, at least that's the way I think we should be going, to send, to send a letter. I don't know if it's, the letter would be to come from either the municipality or the warden, whatever, how it works. So if somebody wants to make a motion,
I would like to make the motion that we are, at this time, we are not ready to consolidate, but the other part is that we have to reconstruct all our agreements. That has to be important, that they understand that we do still want to work them with our partners.
could we make that first motion
Yeah.
and then we could move Kathy?
But I just want to make sure that part
No,
was
no,
there.
that's great, such a great point, Kathy, yeah. Is there a second?
I'd second.
Second.
Either one.
You know what? Yeah, Lori, pick the one you want.
Pick the one you want.
Okay, you all know, heard the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying, oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, there's some questions.
I'm confused here.
Yes,
Who are we making this motion? Who are we sending it to? Nobody's asked anything of us.
to our two partners.
What we've been asked in a sense.
Yeah, I just wrote down here that we notify the town of Yarmouth,
That's a great point.
the municipality of Yarmouth, and the municipal affairs
That we're not.
office that at this point in time. And now I'm only seconded if that's okay with the person that made the motion.
Yes,
Are you good with that, Kathy?
yes, I am.
Okay. Thank you, Richard, for that.
I'm still not convinced we need a motion.
Well,
I just think we need to notify them. We haven't been asked to do anything.
Councillor
We was asked to
Gordon
go,
Hughes?
we was asked to go listen, we went and listened. and
yes, but.
Nobody's interested, so we just move on.
No.
Nobody
but-
asked us to do anything. That's my opinion. And I'm not voting on a motion until I know why we have a motion.
Well, we have a motion because I
We
think
heard
it's
the
only
motion.
fair to let them know that at this point, I think they wanna know if we're interested or not. Because, there was a deadline that was given to us, that if we were interested, we had to make a decision by the end of February, 1st of March, am I correct? In a way, if we were interested in going now, that we would have to make a decision, right?
So I'll try to, there's two questions there, I'll try to
Yes.
address them both in one answer, two birds, one stone.
Sure.
The province did give us, look, if you want to move quickly, we need to know quickly.
Right.
Because if you don't, because the spring legislature is gonna come and go, you can't do it in the fall, and I don't know what's gonna happen in the spring. So the province asked us to consider it, they never did it officially to Councillor Donaldson's point. I think a motion is still appropriate to send a message to your residents.
Of course.
And so if you're not prepared to answer a question you haven't been asked, it might be appropriate to send a motion to your residents to let them know what your position is at this time. on consolidation. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, okay, so we have a motion that goes to municipal affairs at the province.
Correct.
But the town, or the county, the rest of the county, hasn't asked us to do anything.
No, but I think what you're doing is you're quite right. You're quite right. They haven't asked us, but the province has asked the three to consider independently whether they're ready. The town and municipality haven't asked us to consider it. It would be, I think for them, it's more to let them know that we're not participating if of course the motion passes. And then it leaves them to decide whether they're ready.
Right.
And so it just informs them of that. I hear what you're saying, Counselor, and I think there's valid points, but I also don't think there's a downside to passing a motion either from Robert's Rules of Orders perspective.
Okay.
A political perspective, I won't comment.
It just feels strange. You make motions usually because somebody asks you to do something. Anyhow,
There's a
question on the motion.
There's a motion on the floor. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
I'll say aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion carried. To further this, I would certainly like to move to what Councillor Burke said about we definitely need some kind of guidance to staff on structural, maybe I don't want to put words in your mouth, on structural reform from our point of view for staff to help to know which way they should go, because let's face it, there are some agreements that are just not working, whether it's whose fault, we're not gonna blame anybody, it's just the way it is. Sometimes it's boundaries, sometimes it's whatever, and I think we need, direction to our staff. So if you wanna have a discussion on that part, I will entertain a discussion, yes.
I think it's premature until we know what the other two municipalities are gonna do. And when they decide what they're gonna do, whether there's gonna status quo or join and make a larger municipality, then we can start the ball rolling then, but Councillor Burke would like to say something.
Yes.
Yeah, to that, I still think we have to go through all our agreements, and that we gotta do some big housekeeping and a lot of stuff, even though that the other two don't go in consolidation. I think we still have to go through all that. It's important, and I think to grow, I think we have to do it.
Yes, Councillor Blanc.
I just want to add clout to what Councillor Bork just said. I maybe didn't make it clear. I should have explained this, that from a logistical standpoint, I think consolidation is the right move. You know, for cost savings, if that's what we're here to talk about, is pinching pennies, moving forward, streamlining things, I think consolidation works. I just heard it's not worth it. Right? And the point I'm making is, we have problems. I think it's very mature that we're realizing them early. They're not grave problems yet, but we see a trend coming, and I think if we don't address that, we have further problems. So what she said times two. We need to be addressing those, because clearly we owe it to our staff and to our residents, really.
Councillor Digdon.
Yes, and that's the only thing I was gonna back up what Counselor Donaldson said there. I don't think we're ready to go down that road this evening, as far as, I don't know what all the agreements are between the three municipalities or the three units right now. I don't know where some of the problems lie. So I don't know what I could put into that tonight that would help it or hurt it, because I don't know enough about it, to be truthful with you. But at the same time, I don't want people thinking that may be watching here this evening, or anybody that's here, is we're still doing okay. Like, we have problems, yes, we have problems. We have problems as far as our CAO had mentioned once about a marriage, sort of said it was like a marriage, but any marriages have problems, and that, but I don't think it's problems that we can't overcome, and that I think we can sit down, we can talk them through and go from there. And the only thing I will say about amalgamation and talking about marriages, and that, I know lots of couples I've had as friends and all that, stayed together for years and years and years and never had problems. or big problems that they couldn't get over as soon as they got married or amalgamated, and that they had big problems. So we'll, want that marriage part of it, so, and I don't mean that bad by no sense, but sometimes a marriage or an amalgamation may not always be the answer.
Councillor Warden Muse.
I think this is a topic that we're gonna have to deal with, but I think we're gonna have to, we should be dealing with this, and I don't think tonight is the time. I think it's something that we're gonna have to bring up, go over what the problems are, and try to deal with that. But I like Councillor Dickon, I don't think this is time tonight to tackle that until we know, okay, we know what the problems are, now what do we do with them? And that could be a totally separate item that we're gonna deal with at some point.
Exactly.
And whether it's to deal with as a full council or as just a group that we can discuss amongst ourselves, like, you know, to see what the problems are. So, just my view.
Yeah, and I'd be more willing, sorry.
No, that's okay. I just had understood that your motion, the motion that you had put on the floor would kind of push us in that direction, that it wouldn't be something we discuss
Yes.
right
Right.
now.
Right.
But it would create an opportunity for us to sit as a council and discuss. And like Councillor Glenn Dignan said, we don't know all of it. So that's why I think it's important that we do meet. So my understanding was, not that you wanted to do it right now,
No.
but that at a future date, you want to get together, look at our agreements, what's working, what's not working, how are we going to tweak things, how are we going to make changes. That was what I understood.
Okay.
Anna, as our CAO, there are issues, and we spoke about some of the issues that we have. Would you like to say a few words on that, maybe? We're kind of in the middle here, because personally, before you say anything, I mean, you have to be pretty deaf not to hear what we heard at that Mariner Center about the issues of the three CAOs, that they get into a roadblock. And it's not because, it's because that each council is having trouble we all agree with, or will agree on things. When we're at those meetings, the three units, the first thing when we come in our own little chambers, everything changes. So people, there are problems, and we know some of them, what they are. So, Anna, could you maybe enlighten us a little more on that, or do you think it's time, or at the moment, or?
Well, I think, I mean, certainly I'll just take a minute.
High level.
Good luck, Junior. This one could be a ride. No, very quickly. The biggest issue with our partnerships now is that there's lack of alignment. There is no alignment. So when you make decisions the local decisions are still local. So even if you are collectively intending on funding an asset, you may not agree on how you want to run that asset, okay? And the one that comes to mind that is the most, possibly the most not controversial, but certainly the one that is the most complex is the airport.
Okay.
And so what happens so the airport is a non-municipal service. It's not a traditional municipal service, is what I mean. It is a municipal service because we own it. But that is considered in a lot of ways a business, a commercial business. Not everything we do operates in that way. So the decision as to its way forward, you could have 85 different opinions as to how that airport ought to move forward. So the challenge in our environment isn't so much how the agreement is written, it's how the local governments respond to things that are needed at that level. So if you're not willing to spend another dollar at the municipal airport, and it requires an extra $300,000, you as an individual council could block a decision that could invariably be something that the municipality in town would want to see happen at that particular asset. That's the biggest challenge of our agreements. And so, of course, the fact that you have so many of them, you have to renegotiate them. And so you have 3 CAOs in the room, and they don't always agree. So because they're all representing their own organization. Now, again, structural reform could address some of these issues, and some of the issues that each individual municipalities have around these investments might be a lot more fundamental, meaning there are varying levels of interest in delivering that service as well. So Argyle could be very interested in the Mariner Centre, not as interested in the airport. The municipality of Yarmouth might be the other way around, right? So they're very interested in the airport, not as much in the Mariner Centre. And so their time and energy increases or decreases based on where their big interests are. But the biggest piece is the lack of decision-making at that level that binds the three units to just do it, right? Because the money is still local. Even if the asset is regional, you still control the money, therefore you control the decision. My father used to say, I pay, I say. Okay? So this is like having three Delbar muses. Each of which want to say. So I don't know if I could summarize it any better than that, but that is definitely the issue. The issue is not that you're unwilling to partner.
No, not at all. It's that decision-making,
Yeah.
boundaries and whatever.
And just one very quick thing.
Sure.
With every organization that you've incorporated to do a service, you have staff in each and every one of those organizations. Each of them needs an HR policy booklet, each of them needs governance policies, each of them needs Robert's Rules of Order and whatever the case may be, whatever bylaws or policies or rules or regulations.
Staffing.
At every level, every time. And none of them, or very few of them, actually have the resource to do that. That resource is at the municipal level. So you're asking your municipal individuals to not only keep track of your own HR policies and procedures and bylaws, but also influence, implement, and recommend policy changes in 5, 6 different organizations. So
A lot of layers.
we can do better,
Yeah.
right? And that would be from an administrative perspective,
That's what I want.
what I would describe.
Okay, what is the wish of the council? Do you want to? Motion, if there's a motion, we have to make a motion. That we, if there's a motion, then we'll keep on to the next item. Nobody has made it.
Do we make a motion or do we make a notice of motion for something like this?
You could do both,
You could do either one.
either one.
Either one.
Maybe we should just make a notion of,
When we get to the end of our
Yeah.
agenda, we
That's
can
right.
bring it up there.
yeah.
Good, we feel good about that.
Okay, Mr. Chair, the advantage of a notice of motion is that you're triggering your staff to start the ball rolling on. Because your first step, regardless, is to take inventory internally anyway, regardless of what your partners are thinking.
Very good. Great point.
And
Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. Yeah, I'm sorry, man.
and I know, being as though a lot of the talk seems to come from the airport, I honestly believe maybe we have to start looking at that airport in a different light as well. And expanding as far who may put in to help keep that airport going, whether it be provincial government, federal government, or whatever, because I think I'm quite safe to say over $500 a day, every day, 365 days a year leaves the municipality of Argyle to keep the airport going. And, that's a lot of money. And being as though, like Councillor Donaldson said, on many times, the big reason why we're keeping it going is because for provincially, for life flight, and federally for search and rescue,
That's a big one, yes.
so.
Thank you, Councilor Digdon. Okay, we'll move on to 6B, which is the water lending program and pace efficiency program. Let me get on to that. And there's many attachments and I would say many layers. Looking here, just a second, I came up with that. We've had the water lending program since 2017. On the first round, we had $36,500 that were borrowed. 5 households participate in the program. In 2018, we passed a motion to cap the lending at $240,000. And we are right now at the limit, we're right now at $170,625 out of that 240. And we have 22 households who have joined that section of the program. Then, on that same item, we had the Clean Energy Financing Program, which is also referred to as the Property Assessed Clean Energy PACE program. And this program is administered by Clean Foundation on behalf of the municipalities. And this is another program where you can borrow money to the municipality if we so wish. You could go like the same idea as the water lending program to clean, anyhow, council can, we can have a discussion on that. Council may simply extend the date of the policy for the water lending program to keep it at $240,000, where we've only got $170,625 spent. We can keep it at that limit. We can look at extending the deadline, or we can freeze that amount per year, as is written here. So maybe we could deal with the water lending program first. I think I will do one at a time. Any discussion on where we want to go? We have a CAO's recommendation.
Yeah,
Yes, Richard.
I've read through this, and I'm fine with the suggested motion. Move that the water, I'll make a motion that, move that the water lending policy be extended to an indefinite time, allowing up to 240 in lending to our residents, and that the staff amend policy to reflect this decision.
I'll second that motion with the reasoning, this gives us a little bit of leeway. If we have a wet summer, no one's gonna touch this. And if we have a dry summer, at least we'll start seeing the applications come in and maybe realize once that deadline looms, we have some adjusting to make. On that topic, I'm gonna add my 2 cents to this. This is actually a frustrating topic for me because, what was it, 3 summers ago, we had a dry summer. And I get calls from residents that their wells are dry. And that's a pretty serious thing. But the calls are almost like, well, what are you gonna do to help me? What are you gonna do to fix this? Quick. My well just went dry, it went quick. Then the next summer it rained. So everybody forgets about this, right? And nobody drills, I shouldn't say nobody, but the vast majority of the people that had issues won't drill a new well or won't get a new well. And then the 3rd summer, which was last summer, if I'm saying this correctly, yeah. I get the summers mixed up. It was dry again. So, and we're all somewhat guilty of this. For example, every time the power used to go out, I say, man, I swore I was gonna wire my house for a generator. And then the power goes out and I regret not doing it. So I can't blame individuals. However, this is gonna be, according to science, a very continuing trend. And what we're doing as a municipality is somewhat of a Band-Aid solution, right? It does help the few that apply, but I'm just voicing my frustration for future reference if you ever have a chance to have your voice heard at a higher level of government, that I think it's something we should be addressing because it hits at once. Nobody's thinking about their well this summer right now because you know it's late winter, early spring, and things are melting and snow's melting and everyone's got water and it's fine. And then the minute the wells go dry, it's pandemonium and people are asking things of you that you can't quite really fix, right? So it's frustrating as a politician. Just thought I'd vent that out there because it's food for thought for the future.
Any other comments? If not, there's a motion on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nay, motion carried. Okay, coming to that PACE program, and I know I didn't say that well enough. It's handled by the Anna, can you help me on this, on the PACE program?
Sure.
Could you help me on that? I'm kind of I've read it, but I'm missing something.
couldn't keep-
What is it for again?
Couldn't keep pace?
That's a good buzz.
Sorry, I got a lot of them. They need to come out. They do, yeah, better out than in. So, so the PACE program is basically, it's interesting that we had a conversation earlier around the assessments. So that it's a very timely discussion. The reason, and it wasn't intentional that we added it while you were doing the presentation. I know, I'm sure you were. It was intentional only that we wanted to align your thinking, because we do water lending and we have limits to what we can do in terms of water lending, but we do also have other opportunities to lend. So rather than just give you one decision to think about, also there's the PACE program that you can think about. There is a fee to get in the PACE program to be a member of this exclusive club. It's $13,500, but I think the history is that if you applied for funding, that you would receive all or a portion of that back. But you do get something for that. They actually administer the program for you.
Right.
So when there's an application for an energy efficiency review, they come in and they do their thing, because we're not anywhere near qualified to do that, and they provide a recommendation. And so where we fit in is we're the ones that lend the money. So the program allows us to lend the money to the residents in order to improve whatever the case may be, insulation, heat pumps, whatever. Solar, I can't tell you all of the things, but you get the picture. And so I'm presenting this to as an information at this point. Largely, you're a net zero, you're gonna build a net zero energy building. You've got wind turbines all over Pubnico Point. You've got solar power in West Pubnico, solar power in Wedgeport. You've got 2 wind turbines you own in Wellington. You're in renewable energy pretty decently. So it feels like it's something you like. I don't know. There's a lot of hints, but I may be wrong. But anyway, so I just thought we would bring that up to you as council to talk about that. Look, this is an opportunity. You might actually have a lot more opportunities associated with this. So the recommendation from staff would be, take a look at this. You don't have to like jump into a bylaw and jump into the fee, because there's actually other programs, federal, provincial, that you might want to take a more strategic and comprehensive look at. Okay, well, this is what we're gonna do, instead of like, oh, we're gonna do this and then we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna do that. It's like, okay, this is the menu that we're gonna provide. There's a history of this kind of work being done. I believe it's in Cumberland. Councillor D'Entremont would correct me. It's either Cumberland or Colchester, I can't recall. Cumberland, and they had a massive program where they assisted this initiative to happen. It's keeping people in their homes and keeping them warm and keeping them there longer and reducing the cost of operation of their homes. So, discussion is timely. My recommendation at this point is, let's get more information and collect a more comprehensive view for you, but understand that if this is something that you're interested in, keep in mind we don't have like unlimited reserves.
No.
So if you're intending on doing this, we just need to kind of look at the financial aspect of that.
Yeah. Thank you, CEO Muse. Any further discussion?
I'd be willing to make the motion. Move that the CAO or his designate lead the research on renewable energy and energy efficiency projects available to Nova Scotians, and that a report be brought to council recommending projects that would be the best potential to assist us and our residents.
I'll second that.
Moving and seconded, any discussion? Further discussion?
Question.
Questions been asked? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
By nay, motion carried. The next one is our grants to organization policy.
This has received notice,
Yes.
Oh, this is,
so it is ready for approval.
yes, I thought we said this one.
Move that we approve.
Yes.
Second that.
There's been, any discussion on the grants to organization policy? Not all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
By nay, motion carried. Then we'll go to the community halls program policy. This one would be the first reading of this one, the first?
I think it was the same.
Did we do this already?
Yes.
Yes, we did.
Yes.
just changed that no presentation was
Right.
required.
Right on.
Exactly.
Right on.
Move that we approve as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Question?
Question's been asked, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
My name, motion carried. Okay, Article C16, the tax exemption policy.
We discussed this the last time.
Yes.
The numbers,
We did,
Numbers, yes, I remember.
that the numbers have changed.
yes, we changed the numbers so it's ready
Right,
for
there it is.
approval.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
It is only to inform council that there's two pieces. One is that the numbers have changed, and the other is that the policy addresses how the calculations came to be.
Okay.
So there are two incomes that are being considered in your taxes exemption policy. The first threshold is 18,800. That represents the minimum amount of old age and supplement
Okay.
without CPP for a household. So that's the minimum amount. So if one person is living on their own in a house and that's all they have, that they will get the $200 exemption. So between 18,801 and 24,1, that is the difference between, of course, $1 after and minimum wage. So if you're a full-time minimum wage one person,
Yes.
the income of 24,1 threshold will allow you to get a 150 tax exemption. And so the 28,000 higher threshold is the combined income of OAS supplement, I'm pretty sure. So they are influenced by minimum and fixed income, both in minimum wage and also fixed income based on retirement.
And that would be the minimum wage base as it is today.
$11.55.
11.
11.55 was the calculation, because we're using prior year income to determine the exemption.
Right.
Okay, this one here, we've already had this, so, we can entertain a motion.
I'll move.
Moved
Second.
and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And my name, motion carried. We'll go to the F, 6F, which is a compassionate leave.
Mr. Deputy Warden Chair, this is a combination of two policies. We had a leave and we had a compassionate leave, and they said a lot of the same thing. And so this would be, is this a notice or is this to approve?
No.
That's correct. We
Yep.
emailed this one to you.
Yes.
So you've received
Yes.
notice. So it's just essentially combining,
The two.
yeah.
Move that we accept.
Second?
Been moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
My name, motion carried. Okay, we'll go to 6G, which is the repeal Article P15, leave of absence. So we're therefore repealing
Correct.
P15.
So because we've combined the information into P15, we are now repealing the old.
Move that we approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
My name, motion carried. 6H, repeal Article P11, storm day policy, so that forms part of that's, is it that same? But this is a different,
That's a
Storm day?
cleanup because we did not repeal, we had significantly revised the storm day policy, but
Right.
neglected to repeal the old.
oh, okay.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
My name, motion carried. I'll go under 6I, which is a returning officer. And let's see here. So this is a person just, I guess, for our information, saying who he is, where he's from, and this is not something, is that something we have to vote on?
We,
Position.
we have to select a municipal
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was.
returning officer.
Right.
And so I didn't put a request for decision, only because it would have 8 words. The, and I like mine to have 3,000 apparently, so, the recommendation would be that we engage a returning officer internally this coming, year. And I have approached, Kim Rowley, who is obviously our new deputy municipal clerk, to see if she's interested in taking on that role, and she's very interested in taking on that role. I believe she has the capacity and the capability of doing it. We all know that e-voting is a new reality. You gotta be a little bit tech savvy, and she does have some municipal election experience through personal experiences. As is the case with every municipal returning officer, they obtain training from the province and they'll obtain the appropriate training. So I would recommend that council has to make that decision, so I would make the recommendation to appoint Kim Rowley as our returning officer for the 2020 municipal election.
I'll make that a
Any,
motion.
oh, sorry.
Oh, I just had a question,
Sorry.
but we can
Yeah, go ahead.
we can have a
Yeah.
motion.
Motion.
It doesn't
I
matter.
made that a motion.
Now we can discuss.
Now we can discuss.
Go ahead.
So as far as her duties within, is that going to be a problem? Like, can you spare her for that? That's pretty, it's full-time in a way. It's full-time for a certain period.
Yeah.
But leading up to, it's not really full-time.
No.
Like, you know, there's time that you don't have a lot to do, just organizing your files and organizing your,
Yeah.
you know. But when it comes to once nomination day has happened,
Okay.
that's pretty full-time,
It is.
yes.
So, so first of all, you know, do you know anything about returning officers?
No,
You wouldn't have a clue.
Have you been there before?
It's like you've done this before. Okay, so first of all, there are many advantages of having somebody internal. First of all, a lot of the prep work can be done and in advance, far earlier than if you hire somebody, because when you hire somebody, you have them for a period of time, you pay them for that period of time. She does, the quick answer is yes, she does have the capacity. We've assessed it. It's, the thing is it's in the summer, and in the summer, her recreation duties are reduced significantly because
Right.
we have students coming in and doing that. So her workload in the summer was expected to be reduced.
Okay.
So I'm comfortable with that. Also, has been the case in the last 2 elections, it's been a team effort in a lot of ways. There's been a lot of people that assist in the background, particularly around documents that need to be filed, changes on IntelliVote and the system. So I'm reasonably confident that she'd have that time. And you're quite right, it would be full-time after the nomination's complete. And so, yeah, so that's hopefully answers.
Yes, I'm sure, I mean, I had to ask, but I'm sure you wouldn't have recommended, if you had thought that you didn't have the time, I guess I should have thought of that before I even asked.
It's okay. I think your experience in this area is shining through.
I've done a few.
Councilor Digdon?
No, I was gonna ask the same question, that the warden asked, but, because I know she's involved in other projects, and, I know, you know, if our CAO says he believes she has the time, I'm sure she does. I just know how he pushes himself compared to how some other people, you know, it's not as easy as, yeah.
There'll be bumps.
There you go.
There'll be bumps. There'll be bumps, and I don't mean that about the individual. It's just like
No,
there
no.
will be other responsibilities, and
Yeah,
and so it
Yeah.
will be a challenge for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and I don't doubt her abilities by one bit, no, I'm sure she can,
If she was here, she would hopefully tell you she'd welcome the challenge.
there you go.
Yeah.
Very good. That says a lot. So, we have a motion on the floor, question being asked, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
My name, motion carried. Next, we have the Mariner Center proposal. And it's about the community consultation and planning proposal.
Yes. So
Yes, that was an answer.
I apologize. I'm realizing that that it's getting into a long meeting, so sorry for interrupting, but
No, that's okay.
so so basically what is required here, so this is the next step of the strategic planning that the Mac Chauvin and his group are proposing. Certainly, it really is the Mariner Center board to approve this approach. But what we are looking for is we're looking for representatives from the municipality. So the town and municipality of Yarmouth are looked at and approved or are about to approve 2 councillors to be involved in this process. So what I'm asking, essentially, based on the document that you have read, I'm sure, to see if there are 2 individuals that would like to sit on this, what I would call an ad hoc committee. It's not a standing committee. It would be one that you would participate in community engagement and other conversations around vision and mission for an asset that you don't own, but you certainly own. So that's what we are looking for with that.
Very good, thank you, CEO. Okay, first of all, any volunteers?
I personally wouldn't mind volunteering. Me being on the board, would that have any effect?
I don't believe so. I think you're good.
I just
I mean,
don't
they're looking
wanna,
for, yeah. It's a good question. I can't say I'm 100% certain, but I'm confident that it would be okay.
I'd be willing to volunteer at the best of my abilities, like it's, you know, yeah.
Good, yes. Anybody else willing to volunteer to sit on that committee?
And you need 2, the other 2, go ahead, 2,
That's
a
my
request.
that's my understanding, yeah.
I,
I was gonna nominate for deputy warden.
I'm interested, I want to be sure, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun, and I don't think I am, but certainly, you know, on your plate. I certainly am willing. Because it's what you
I think it's good to have you on there.
yeah.
I also make a motion that we accept the 2 people that put themselves forward for the nominations, Councillor Glenn Digdon and Deputy Warden Keith Surratt.
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded,
Question?
the question's been asked, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
By nay, motion carried. Okay, under K, we have a field truck, field maintenance truck, and I guess we have a tender package that was open. And as you've probably looked at, it's there, I guess for some reason I hadn't seen this one, but I was at the opening of the letter anyhow, but I hadn't read this
No.
part.
I hadn't either, I think that was.
It's a late
added
edition.
Later.
Yeah,
It was
okay.
late
Yeah,
edition.
see there now, yeah.
I have a question, I guess.
Sure, go ahead, yes,
before-
that's
before
what
we
it's
do
here for,
anything.
yes.
I know, because they didn't follow, we'd asked for, it's kind of a shame, because we can get a brand new one at a cheaper price, but they didn't follow the guidelines of the tender, so automatically I think you have to disqualify them, is that correct? I think there was legal.
The tender was clear that we were looking for a used vehicle.
yeah.
Obviously, the intention of us writing it that way was to save money, because
Sure.
presumably,
Makes sense.
if you're into something at 30, 40, 50, 1,000 kilometers, that you're not gonna spend as much as you would
Exactly.
for full retail. This was a complete out of left field, submission, that ironically, the new vehicle, submission was 1,000 and change less
Less.
than
Yes.
Yeah,
the.
exactly.
But we were very specific in what we asked for. If we accept that bid, we would be telling the other bidders that the rules don't have to be followed, and they followed the rules. There's nothing to say that the other bidders wouldn't have put in a new vehicle.
New vehicle, yes.
If we had asked them. And there's a noticeable absence of some local organizations. This is a public tender, so they had the opportunity, so perhaps you know, perhaps they didn't have, the used vehicle they felt would suit us. So, again, accepting a bid on new would cause problems, and I would not recommend that we would.
No.
So, our two options are to accept the next lowest bid, which is Bruce Auto Group, Middleton. It's a 2019 Ford F-150 XLT Super Crew, likely serviced locally. And the other option would be to cancel. I don't recommend cancel. There's no, first of all, we don't have a preset budget for this, so we didn't say you can't exceed this budget, so there'd be no reason to do that. We don't have a budget for this item, so I would recommend that we accept the recommendation of our Public Works Director.
Okay, if, we should have a motion on this.
So,
So move, seconder,
Second.
second. Any questions on the?
Well, yeah,
Go ahead.
this is another situation where, I mean, I wish we was allowed to use common sense instead of following the letter of the law, because if it was me, I'd be taking the new truck for less money than a second-hand one.
Question.
But I mean, rules are rules, and even if you have to follow them, it doesn't make sense sometimes.
but like it doesn't say with the new one, what type of truck, like, you know what I mean, like, it may not be comparable to,
Clearly not.
obviously it's not.
No, I mean,
Because I haven't seen a new, brand new truck with that price in a long time.
it's very basic.
Yeah, and,
You know what I
and
mean? So,
we didn't get into the nitty-gritty of the
No.
operational,
It didn't
No.
fit.
Uh,
It didn't
because,
fit.
because, you know, I mean, you're our governors, we didn't get into that, but, you know, yeah, so there's that as well. I mean, the truck that you're purchasing is a good truck.
it's a good truck, it's,
It's
it
an
doesn't
XL.
have hardly any kilometers, I
No.
mean, 21,000, it's like new anyway, so.
That's probably what, 65, 68 new,
Yeah.
That one, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it would be.
you know, so we're getting it for 35 too, because it's got
Exactly.
21.5, so it's a good,
Exactly.
it is a good deal for us, but you're right, I understand it,
Yeah.
it kinda doesn't feel right, but, yeah.
Don't forget, there's huge discounts that would be like, that they have programs when it comes into, you know, some of these, they have big programs on the new truck, I mean,
Yeah.
probably one, you're seeing some
Or there's
big
something,
discount, yeah.
yeah, you don't know what you're getting for 33,000.
Anyhow, there's still warranty left on that lower bid
Well, they're
one.
giving a good warranty, yeah.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
My name, motion carried. Okay, to move on, let's have a look here. For correspondence, we have a thank you letter from the YMCA. That was for the, to get the consultants to check out the structural and all the rest of the YMCA, it's a thank you. Under 7B, we have successful bid for the 55 games, I guess, age 55 games, from YASTA. 7C, summer employment budget, that's just for information. 7D, Mariner Center letter. To the warden, to the warden, the mayor.
It's just that they're
They're extended.
they've extended their, yes, it's just to tell us that they've extended their funding.
I found that, I know this is on TV, but we all recognize that the current situation needs to be improved. I found there was a dig, but anyhow, that's my opinion. I found there was a couple of digs in that pragmatic approach and that, but anyhow, I'll leave it at that. Considering consolidation, anyhow, so just leave it at that for now.
And that's why there are issues
That's why, and I found there was a few digs there, but anyhow, that's my
we
opinion.
need to think about, yeah.
That's something we're gonna work on,
That's something we're gonna work on.
to make
That's
better,
right.
to make better.
Number 8, financial request, district community grant, Société Acadien Métis-sur-Croix, and that one would be from Lucien, I think.
Yeah, correct, so they're, actually, they didn't request amount, if I'm not mistaken, no.
Yeah,
But I'd like to allocate $500 from our grants organization District Community Grants, to the Associación de Academia Métis Rico, and I also just like to throw in a quick blurb that, they added in a few lines there, in their letter, congratulating all who worked on the municipal building, as well as a mention to, the consultation process with, AFN. So, just a little positive note that
Great
sometimes
point.
you often hear the negative ones, so it's nice to hear a positive.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll make a motion for $500.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so we've moved and seconded, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
By nay, motion carried. Okay, moving towards the end of the meeting, agenda topics for next meeting or notice of motion by council.
Notice of motion to guide staff to, I guess, to see list all the agreements and to start the process of structural reform.
Yeah, we'll note that and we can, we don't need a motion. No.
Notice.
Thank you, Kathy, that's great. We'll move forward on that. Question period, were there any questions or anybody from the audience? There, okay. We have no in-camera items, so therefore we'll go to,
Move to adjourn.
thank you, everyone.